Hello, everybody! It is another segment of the Halley Quynh Show, or the Q&A Show, whatever it is you want to call it, where we hop on every single week and we'll cover topics about life. I mean, that means from self-love, healing, transformation, growth, all that. And this week we're going to talk about doing waiting well. Like, what? So, yeah, like before we begin, we also wanted to mention that next week on Tuesday we have a workshop called Loving Through the Darkness. So, what does your darkness look like? We both have different darkness, and I feel like that is something, how would I say it? When we get together and we can focus on that, it can be very healing, because a lot of times we feel very alone in our darkness. Very alone.
And there's a very interesting relationship between that topic and today's topic, because oftentimes we're confronted with our darkness when we're waiting. When we're in like a waiting zone or a waiting period for something to change or evolve, we're kind of like with whatever dark thoughts or dark feelings or dark behaviors that we have.
Yeah, it can trigger the darkness when you're waiting. And so we have 6 days left before we start. There's a few spots left, so we left the link above if you're interested in that workshop. And we have a different theme every single month. And it's so good. We just finished out the details yesterday, so we hope to see you guys there. All right, now let's get into this topic of doing waiting well. So if you're watching this right now or you're watching the replay, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for to happen?
Don't you feel like everyone is waiting for something?
Yes.
Always. Like everyone is always waiting for something.
You're anticipating something.
You're anticipating something. Even if it's like something that you don't quite know, like you're waiting for something to change, or you're waiting for something to come.
Or you're waiting for someone to change.
Or you're waiting for someone to change, or you're waiting for yourself to change, or you're waiting for some type of something different to happen.
Yeah, you're waiting for something to be over.
Waiting for something to be over, waiting for something to start.
Yes. So what does that feeling usually bring up? So let's go to you, Halley. So what are some things that you feel like you have waited for, or is there something that you are waiting for? And how are you, like, what comes up for you as far as like dealing with it, or how, because that brings up patience, right? Like, so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that just this recognition that we're always like, I can't think of a moment in my life where I wasn't waiting for something. So just a recognition that we're like, kind of like waiting is part of living.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that our generation is and the way that our culture is that we're so like fast paced, receiving things really fast. We're really hooked on the like adrenaline of instant gratification. Mm-hmm. And right now we're in this building called the Urban Hive, and it's an old factory space, and there's this picture here in this meeting room, and it's like how it used to be, and there's all of these women in this factory peeling potatoes, just like standing in this factory all day long peeling potatoes for like probably years and years and years and years of their life. And like that's their lifestyle, and we don't live like that anymore. And so there's like, I'm just feeling like a lot of like gratitude and like respect for the way that like we like humans used to just like live these like very monotonous existences before machines took over all of that work.
Yeah.
And so now I feel like we just like have more time, we have more freedom, we have more space, and we have more expectations on like how exciting our life should feel.
Yeah.
And I think that we can get really hooked on that feeling of excitement. And sometimes you just literally have to just like not be excited for a while.
Yeah.
So I guess that's my answer to your question, Quynh, is that like I'm in a place where like there's like anything, like I'm committed to like keeping up with my like commitments, and there are things that I would like to happen in my life that just like aren't here yet,
right?
And there's nothing that I can do about that,
right?
And so like honoring the waiting zone as actually like necessary and like a fertile place where like I'm learning, I'm growing, like I'm like whatever, like the universe has this plan going on and I'm just like a little chess piece on the board. And so like trusting that like the time that it's taking for certain dreams of mine to come to fruition and to manifest is like necessary time.
I like how you said like honoring the waiting time, and what you're doing is you're sticking to your commitments day by day. And those commitments allow you to grow. I'm hearing growth in like those commitments. So you're like, okay, yeah, there's certain things you are waiting for, and then something with honoring the waiting time. Yeah, I love how
it's
you
like
connected
a
the
rich,
picture.
it's like a rich time. And it's like instead of feeling punished, I think that this is something that we'll go into a lot where we feel punished by having to wait, which is victim mode. And I think that a lot of people, like you mentioned, are in this like waiting pen about the pandemic and feeling like, when is it going to be over? When is it going to be over? When is it going to be over? But it's like, but there's a reason why it's lasting the length that it's lasting, because it's like for us.
And I know that's hard to
for us.
How can we see that?
In our containers and in our like in our evolution. So like trusting the waiting and trusting what the waiting is for.
And perhaps bringing your focus, and I just love what you said, like what can you commit to every day? It makes me think of what is it that we do have control over, and bringing us back to that, like, okay, like yes, I am waiting for that to happen because I cannot wait for that to be over, right? Like that, let's just use the pandemic for an example. And so for the time being, and I love that because you mentioned commitments, and some of us might not even be aware of what kind of commitments that we have, and are those commitments, do those bring us growth? Because if anything, can we grow? Can we become better while being in the process? And that can bring in really honoring being patient and honoring this time while whatever's happening, that will come for you to get back to whatever that people are saying, because there's no such thing as get back to normal. But imagine, what you're able to cook up within yourself during this time. And when the pandemic is over, you'll be so grateful for the time that you did get to have. Because I know that a lot of people are, seeing that there's things being taken away from them. But what has opened up? Like when something is being taken away, what has opened up? That's what's coming to my mind right now.
That's a really great question. Like we're so inclined to focus on what we're losing. And to focus on our pain points, and to go into like, this isn't fair. But like, you're so right, with everything that we're losing, something else is opening up. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's like
maybe it is the perfect time.
Maybe it's like a new like an opportunity to innovate in a way that you never have before.
Right.
So like so much is opening up right now.
It's making me think of our last workshop where it was called Embracing Change. So there's an opportunity for us to focus on things like that, or like look for ways to adjust our perspectives a little bit, because when we think a little bit differently in a different perspective, that can really open up some new ideas, right? And so maybe there's places you can go for support. We host workshops, for an example, every single month, and we do our best to really match of what like we feel like the community needs right now. So like, for example, loving through the darkness, like, okay, like let's really focus on how we can love through our dark times right now. And that, I'm sure a lot of darkness has brought up for you in your personal life with this pandemic, for an example. Right. And there's I know with us, we are going through our own journey, so we're telling you, like, being in the journey of self-love and being committed to ourselves and growing, we can sit here and tell you that it's possible to do waiting well. It's possible to find resources and support through this time. Like, we're all like being open to our own support that we're working on in our own personal lives,
And I feel like one of the perspectives that I've had to really work with is, so like, changing my mentality on like the emotion of boredom, because I think that energy of boredom is kind of like what comes with waiting.
Yes, perfect.
Right.
Because you're waiting, you're like,
and you're like, oh, when's the thing coming? I'm so bored. And yeah, so like, but also the thing that I've been thinking a lot about with this is that oftentimes what you're really actually experiencing is you're experiencing a more like neutral reality where you're not in a big high and you're not in a deep low. You're kind of more in this neutral place. And that is, although it can like seem like boredom, or you can call it boredom, it's also really peaceful. And there's like something I think to treasure because there's like a stability there where you can like, even though like the routines of like taking care of yourself and doing your routines and doing your daily grind for like what you need for stability in your life can feel boring. It can, you know.
Yeah.
But it also sets you up so that when a big new thing happens, or you do receive like a big manifestation or a big opportunity or like a big new person in your life, like you have that like stable ground underneath you. So like I think that there's something about like again, back to like honoring and like looking at the boredom as like a gift.
Yes, right. Again, right. All these, as we talk about this, we hope that it opens up your mind to be open to these new ways of thinking. You know, like maybe can you put like a reminder in your room or something that can remind you, so when you're bored in your room or you find yourself bored or waiting, you can have this message of like, okay, like, you know, like how is this an opportunity? You know, like, oh wow, like how can I be grateful right now? Or like what you said, like I like how you talked about like foundation. Like, do I have a strong foundation right now? Because when something comes, will we be able to like honor that and like be ready to have it in our lives?
Yeah.
Or recognize that as something good or bad, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that strong foundation, you aren't strong enough to hold the big, beautiful surprise manifestation that's coming your way. So it's like these waiting zones are like strengthening zones. You're like strengthening your energetic field in your body and your spirit and your heart in order to be able to like hold and maintain and receive like the gifts that are coming.
A big gift that's coming through for me with like the boredom is like time. Like you have time to be still. Remember when your life was go, 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 go? And you weren't able to center yourself or even learn how or practice centering yourself and process and reflect. So the boredom time, perhaps that's the time to really like honor, like how can you be grateful for that time that you have to be bored? Because I'm telling you, a lot of people don't have that. Their mom, they have like 4 kids, 3 kids, or they constantly having to do something. So if you find yourself bored or waiting, time is also available in that moment when you realize that you are bored, that you are waiting for something to happen, right? That is the moment you get to reel something in, even though you're not doing anything, but perhaps you can even do some mind work. I mean, we do meditations every single week. Like there's so much opportunity with that time.
Yeah. It's also for me, the way that I've been like using that time is just studying things that are interesting to me.
Yeah.
And it's like, or like reading novels, and I do that now.
Right.
It's like the amount of reading that I do now is like, it's really great. And it's like, I have to remind myself because I wasn't in the habit of reading like I do now when my life was busier and fuller pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And so now I'll be like, oh man, I'm bored. What do I do with myself? And I'm like, oh yeah, like pick up a book. Like, that always feels good, and then I like am stimulated in my waiting.
Yeah, it's a chance for us to like, wow, like with this time, like before when like pre-pandemic, like what was it that I was missing out on? The thought of like catching up with yourself is coming up for me right now. You got to catch up with yourself.
And right, because like a lot of people are feeling like the missing out feeling right now. Like they're missing out on being out and being in the world and connecting and socializing and all of that stuff. But there was equally so a missing out on being with oneself. In that energy field.
Right. And when you're being with oneself, I want to mention there's answers available in this process of being like by yourself or doing nothing. I'm just thinking about business owners and people who know that they need to come up with something and like really find solutions, because I know that that was a big hit for a lot of people. And I will say I am seeing people being pushed to be so creative, and they're going into other parts of themselves that they didn't even know that they had. I know someone who was just about to get this job, and then she got laid off because of the pandemic. And now she is like going and looking into like photography. She really started to pick up on her photography, and she started getting opportunities, and then she ended up making tie-dye shirts. And I'm like, girl, you can fucking sell this, you know, like shit. And she told me there's no way that I would have explored this if I had a job.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and I'm just
rediscover yourself, open up yourself, like.
And I'm curious just to ask for anyone that wants to type in a little comment, like what within yourself has opened up for you since pandemic, like in your waiting zone, like what have you discovered?
Yeah, in your waiting zone, what have you discovered, right? And then then you can think about, wow, this is happening for me. You know, I know that's a hard like transition to think about. Things are happening to me. Oh, like this sucks. What did I do to deserve this, right? We can think of, oh wow. Yeah, so would love to know. Yeah. So I love this topic, doing waiting well. How can you do? And guess what? Like in the future, when the pandemic is over, you have this skill. So no matter what happens, you're prepared because you've been through it. And now you have this tool, however you were able to do waiting well. You get to bring that with you any single time when something else happens, because we don't know what's going to happen.
Well, and like we said, like no matter what your life is doing, no matter what the world is doing, like waiting, like being skillful at waiting is going to serve you forever, no matter what. Because there's always going to be waiting.
Yeah, I thought about waiting for love. So how many of you waiting for love?
Waiting for love.
Waiting for that right opportunity, waiting for like, I don't know what it is that you're waiting on your doorstep to happen. Yeah. Your great idea to happen.
Waiting for like, you know, and if you collaborate with other people, sometimes you have to wait for like other people to do their part. And just to like really be able to wait well is like such a huge gift that you can give yourself to focus on that.
Yes, yeah. And then also, I thought about like being impatient, because when you're not waiting well, you're impatient. And when you're impatient, you get frustrated. And when you get frustrated, you're leaving your center now.
Totally.
You're leaving your center. So like when we can learn patience, I feel like there's acceptance in there. You learn to accept that things are the way that things are now. And when we can accept, you're able to find peace. And for some reason, your day just might flow a little bit better. You know,
I had a life coach who once told me that she quoted someone, I forget who the quote was from, but she said that impatience is the root cause of war.
Ooh, love that.
It all boils down to impatience.
Yes. And they said patience in life in Uber is important. Yeah. Ask when it's meant to be done. It may not be your season right now. Acceptance, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, back to what you were saying. You said impatience
is the root cause of war.
With ourselves, with other people.
All of the above.
Oh, how many of you guys have been into an argument because you were impatient? Right? What happens after when you're impatient? Do you do something that's actually against who you are? So there's a lot to this. There's so much that is possible in the growth in your patience work, and your growth work, and what you get to do within that time when you find yourself bored or waiting.
Yeah, and there's like a deep relationship between impatience and expectations, right?
Gosh.
And we all know what happens when we have our like
so much
our rigid expectations about how we want things to go, and when they don't go that way, then we feel mad and frustrated and disappointed and angry with ourselves, with others, with the world, right? And so much of that is impatience, and it's like it's not that we don't get to like hold our dreams and like live our life in the direction of our dreams, but also like we really just aren't really in control of like when we get things. We just aren't. As much as we want to like Because our culture is very like strategic, like write out your goals, create your timeline, you know?
Right? And then it's like,
which is all good and dandy, and like sure, like organization is helpful, but if we're like so married to our idea of the timeline, we're gonna be disappointed.
1000%. Oh my gosh, I just had this visual, you guys. Let's just say you do have this timeline, right? Of like, you know, you do something and you get to this point, you get to this, and you get to your dreams, because everybody has a dream, or a lot of people have dreams, right? And that's, I guess, something that we fantasize, or we think about, or we visualize. And you know, what if life needs you to grow a little bit for you to really make that dream come true?
Yeah,
because if it was that easy,
for it,
yeah, what if it was that easy? Everybody would be freaking living on their dreams, and woo woo woo, rainbows and sunshine everywhere. And guess what though? Like, there's something involved in making that happen. So I just thought about, like, you know, perhaps life needs you to grow right now for you to really pursue your dreams, or have your dreams something that is really concrete and like stable in your life. Kind of like what you said about like when the thing comes or whatever arrives, you'll be able to hold and actually have that like in your life.
Yeah.
Instead of having it something temporarily, you realize, oh my gosh, because guess what's not stable? This. That's why you're impatient. And just with the acceptance, you know, like a couple weeks ago, I saw myself still kind of being in this like waiting, like, oh, I can't wait for things to get back or the pandemic to be over. And I caught myself and I said, what if this was forever? I just entertained myself with that.
Yeah.
Because it helped me get into like, okay, well, why don't I just accept that this is how it's gonna be?
Yeah.
I know that's hard.
Yeah.
Because you think about what you used to have, but guess what? We lose things all the time. There's things that leave us all the time. So there's just so much growth opportunity I see here. And when you can do patience well and get to a point of acceptance, you are ready for life, because life is going to freaking throw you shit. And you have this to really help you persevere and not shake in, because you're stable in here. So yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to mention that when I think that oftentimes when we're feeling impatient, we have this like urgency to make something happen. And so even though, like, say like you're holding out for like a soulmate relationship, right? And you just like know that that's what you're ready for, and you know that that's what you want, but you're feeling impatient about it, you're feeling lonely about it, you're feeling deprived, like physically and emotionally deprived by not having a partner. And so you're like, all right, well, I'm gonna take matters into my own hands, and I'm gonna like get out there and just like grasp,
download the app
and like grasp for dates and like do the thing, you know? And then but like what's really actually what, like, there's something about like becoming so, like taking that energy of just like out, where is it, taking that energy, pulling it in, in, like exercise, sleep, food, meditation, like other nourishing relationships, and like building your own self so that your aura becomes so magnetic that it just like draws in that actual right match.
Yeah.
And I think that this is what happens in our impatience, is we just start grasping for like less than what we actually want, deserve, desire, you know? And we deplete our own energy when we do that.
Yeah.
And then we're disappointed because we're not getting what we want, and we're just annoyed and we're frustrated, and then we think that there's no one out there, and we create all of these storylines, you know?
Yeah. I have a close friend of mine who went on that mission. She ended a really long-term relationship. She's like, wait a minute, I feel like I have this epiphany where I know what I don't want. So if I know what I don't want, I do know what I want, I'm gonna go out and get there. So she downloaded the app, she went on these dates, and she found that she was so exhausted and that she's been missing out on her own time. And then she had another epiphany. It's like, psh, duh, like what about me? Let me just focus back on me. And since then, I just seen her accept and be so much more full of life and loving, and like that's the answer, and she's not even worried.
That's the thing.
She's not even worried.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you start really filling in your own cup as a lifestyle, as a daily practice, as a commitment to yourself, like, sure, you can still hold the dream and the desire for partnership, but you don't feel that like desperation, because that's not what you're actually desperate for. You're desperate for your own attention. And once you give yourself that, like, that edge is like totally taken off.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Ooh.
And then you can be patient for the right fit, however long it takes.
Yes. It's almost like you know that whatever's coming is going to be worth it, because you're growing to be able to like really have that in your life, like we said. Because how many times have we've had something but we weren't able to like keep it, or what we attracted was actually as unstable as you are, as impatient as you are.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Or as unhealthy as the last one.
Yeah. Been there. We've been there. A lot of people misconstrue that. Yes, Halley dropping knowledge. Boom. Yes, mic drop. Life will hit you square in the nose. Yes. Great point by timeline. Yeah. People wait for their turn to talk in patience, and they don't listen to hear. Right? Like, man, this just goes into so much in relationships. When you're patient with people, you're accepting people. You're able to really listen to them and like hold space for people to actually be themselves. And so you will see yourself treating people in that way once you treat yourself that way. It's quite magical, you guys. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this talk about doing patience well, doing waiting well. Oh man, there's so many layers to that. It went to acceptance. It went to us being actually unstable and like checking ourselves. And when we're impatient, we're actually needing this more than ever when we're impatient. Because I feel like that's like us feeling like we're losing control because we're focused on the thing that we can't control.
Yeah.
So it's like so much in tapping in and finding opportunities to honor the time that we do have that has opened up. Honor what has opened up. Even though we lost something, what has opened up. Those are the highlights that I'm thinking about right now with our talk.
Yeah, and I think that the highlight for me and the main takeaway is that impatience is like, even though it truly, really feels like it's about that thing out there that you don't have yet, it really isn't.
I know.
It really isn't. It's really about like what needs some support in here. Like through your own attention, through your own inquisitiveness and curiosity within yourself, through your own time spent with yourself.
Yeah.
Like that really is what impatience is calling you to do. But you have to like get through the trickery of it.
Because it'll trick you
to think that you're supposed to go find the solution out there, and that the answer lives out there in someone else.
Oh my gosh. Mic drops all day. Anthony, I had to catch myself with my daughter the other day. Thank you guys for this. Stay stable, ladies. Yes. I love it, Anthony. Thank you for your good vibes.
Yeah.
And everyone that's on Brandon, we see you too.
Brandon.
I see Brandon, other people hopping on and off. Deception is huge. Yeah. So would you say that we need that time? We need that time to really analyze and process. What am I being deceived of right now for my own self?
Yeah.
My old beliefs. What is actually the real?
What is actually the real?
What's the truth right now?
And you can always just like default to like, all right, I don't know what the real is, but I'm gonna take care of myself in this moment.
Yes, that's the least thing that I can do.
That's the least I can do is just care for myself in this moment.
Because that's what I do when I'm sure on. You know what? It will come. Let me just see, and even that's patience, right? Like the answer will come, but let me just get deep within myself. Let me take care of myself. Yeah. Beautiful. So you guys, loving through the darkness. I mean, that's probably bring all of this up too. That is next week on Tuesday. It's virtual. It's virtual. We only have a few spots left. It's next Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's
gonna be really magical. We have like
so good.
Such cool processes and. It's gonna be awesome.
Loving through the darkness. And I posted a quote today. It was about loving through the darkness so you can love yourself walking out of the darkness. You guys. Yeah. If you guys have any questions about that, let us know. It's going to be a great time. Great, deep, awesome, intimate time next week on Tuesday. So we hope to see you guys there. And if not, we'll see you guys back on the live that we're here every week.
Much love, y'all.
Much love. Bye. Thanks for being here.